This is the Spinner Rack.
Welcome everybody back to Spinner Rack. I'm here with P. Kyle. We're talking about Doomsday Clock number 9. Is this a hit or is this a miss? I say it's a hit. You know, once again, what the hell, Joe, man?
You think it's a hit?
I think it's a hit.
You don't you think? Go ahead. Come on. We're on the clock.
Okay, so all the heroes go into space to try to stop him. Can it be done? Can it not be done? And what happens? What do? We find out about the Firestorm. How Firestorm, this whole being, the whole reason for Firestorm in the entire DC universe is a lie. I thought it was pretty interesting retconning of the whole story, and I think that we should go forward with it. Also, I agree with Putin.
I came back to reviews for this.
There are three things. Okay, the three things that I wanted to say about Doom's Clock. One, you can't believe everything that you read in this story.
Well, then why did they write it?
No, you can't believe everything that you read in the story because, again, a lot of events have been manipulated, so we don't know if everything that we're reading is actually forthright.
All right, number two.
Because going back to the whole thing with Ronnie Raymond, okay, and the professor, you would have to believe that not only was he looking to do this, but somehow it worked out just the way that he wanted, and then throughout this entire time, he's been acting like this. So that's a big stretch and a bit hard to swallow.
Number two.
Two, not all the heroes go fight. Remember, we're minus the three most important heroes in the DC universe. Sure. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman don't make it to Mars to fight.
Though the two of them are in bad shape.
Well, yeah, I was surprised. Batman woke up. He was like, "Okay, we got to get into it." I'm like,
"Yeah,
oh, that's one good bat plane, dude. You know, that shields you from the. That's pretty good."
Three.
Three. This is at least for me at this stage of the game. This is. There's an argument being formed here, and I always like when comic books deal with ideas as opposed to just people. Because for the most part, a lot of them do represent larger ideas. Superman, Spider-Man, for me, being the biggest two. So this is the Watchmen universe, where they have decided to focus that the Watchmen universe was this incredibly cynical place where, the worst thing was always going to happen. Murphy's Law, there was never going to be any good outcome of any of this type of stuff that happened in Watchmen. This was all for naught at the sacrifice that was made on the part of Dr. Manhattan, all of Ozymandias' scheming, and all the people who died when he decided to implement that scheme, as opposed to the DC universe, which is predicated on a very, very, simple idea, which is the hope that good is going to triumph over evil. That's it. Regardless of what happens, these guys, these heroes, okay, self-appointed if they are always going to come through in the nick of time and save us, so we'll have a chance to rebuild, that this is going to happen. And Manhattan says as much in the comic where he says, he's trying to prove a point, that even hope decays. Now, that goes in contrast with the great phrase, hope springs eternal. Hope isn't supposed to decay, and he's putting these particular things in motion to say, no, this is going to happen. And that's one of the reasons why he's been attracted to the DC universe, at least as so much as I'm getting from the story. Now, all of that being said, I don't believe that Dr. Manhattan is responsible for this stuff. He has never shown the ability or the power to do this type of stuff. He said he moved Alan Scott's Green Lantern 6 inches from him, and that is pretty much what predicated this. There were no heroes. But Alan Scott and the JSA is not the foundation of the DC universe when it comes to heroism. It's Superman. So if he had done something with Superman, I could understand this. But that, for whatever reason, didn't get touched. He didn't mess around with Superman. So I think there's somebody else, playing around in the wings. I think he's maybe, if not a vassal, then he's a pawn at the end of the day. Now, I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking.
Thanks, Kyle. What do you think, Petey?
This, for me, draws... Well, the angle that Alan Moore and the original Watchmen, which led them to become the Watchmen instead of being the Charlton heroes, is that Alan Moore breaks, most characters go through something where they're almost broken and then they recover and save the day. Alan Moore breaks them and keeps them broke. And that's ultimately what was going on in this aspect of Firestorm, whereas what he did in the issue before in Russia, this event that happens is not his fault, but this whole background stuff, maybe it's not, but it's like having those paperwork in the back of the issue about what Dr. Stein was trying to look up. Is like, this is making it feel more real, because that was sort of the real part of Watchmen, is reading these passages. But also, it's also to me, using the nuclear aspect, is playing more to like the Watchmen movie, where we got to see Dr. Manhattan, something real cataclysmic in the movie, whereas in the comic, Alan Moore went to more the supervillain aspect, having the space alien. And it makes it kind of points out some of the issues with Watchmen, but I just didn't really like some of that aspect, and it was a tough one for me, because Firestorm is a character that was always sort of DC's Spider-Man, but he never really took at that.
Because he sucked?
No, I liked the comic. Pat Broderick used to draw it. It was a fun comic for me. He was in the Justice League. He was also in the Superpowers cartoon. So he was a character that has this lineage, and then go to this dark spot of having Martin, I think it's Dr. Stein sort of being, it was a little tough for me, but hopefully they can pull it out. It's just very, very dark and you see Luthor coming in there, and it's like, maybe we can pull this out. But then they had this moment where she's like, oh, Superman's in there, and the whole gun thing is just like, all right, guys, a little too much cutesy moment. So this was us coming back to reviews and doing this one. It was a little dark and a little glum. Instead of grim and gritty, it's a little glum.
So would you buy it? Or would you recommend it? Yes or no?
I think if you're already in there and you've gone this far, you want to see how it ends. So I'm not going to.
Would you buy it?
Oh, hold on. Just as a standalone issue, would you recommend it? Just like, hey, check this out.
God.
But it's part of a package, so.
No.
This one is harder for me. It's hard to say. I can't really recommend this one. I say, even though it was harsher reading issue 8 with the incident, that one at least I was sort of in the story and what was going on. So issue 8 was a little more powerful. Even though I like the direction, I think it was something I would recommend you going. And then if you have the energy to go, but I wouldn't. This was more filler to me.
They're connected.
This is more filler for me.
If you like it, you got to do it.
So yeah.
Pete, Cal, would you get it?
Yeah.
Thank you. So,
But I would recommend this as a standalone, if you're already in for a penny, in for a pound, as they would say. But I would also recommend this as a standalone issue, because I think this would definitely germinate more interest on the part of a reader to want to read more. So yeah, for those reasons, I would recommend it.
You've been good all day. You've been really good.
Oh my gosh, what is this? Because he's being
So we're
positive.
saying go and get it. All right?
What do you say?
I
You
said
say
yeah,
no.
baby, yeah,
You
just
say
being-
no.
He's just being
He
cool because
says
it's St.
no.
Patrick's Day. A happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Aaron
All right,
Gabra.
out.